The beauty of this process is you can go about it in many different ways. If you prefer, really graphic drawing, I recommend using paint pens. I really like these Posca pens. They're quite opaque and they dry really fast. I'll be demonstrating using black and red so you can see the difference, but I recommend getting black. If you prefer to paint, if you like painting or a really flowing mark, I recommend getting some brushes and using this Speedball super pigmented acrylic. What I like about this one is it dries really quickly because it's made for painting on film. You'll need blue painter's tape. Now if you want to cut some stuff out, I recommend buying some black paper, grabbing some black paper, a glue stick, and an X-Acto knife or blade or scissors. Definitely have some rulers handy. Then of course have your Duralar film that you're going to paint on and your drawing. So your drawing, this is where you're going to start out with. Make a simple sketch. You're going to work right on top of that. Make that drawing on a big enough sheet of paper that you can put your film over the top. And that's it. These are the materials I'll be using in this tutorial. The following instruction is a technical tutorial on all the capabilities of the materials shown to you. Please follow along and get inspired and find ways in which you can adapt this type of mark making for your own work. To start off, place your drawing up and carefully tape your film to the drawing. I created a rectangle around the drawing so I knew exactly where to put the film, and I'm taping the top two corners so if I need to I can flop the film back and forth. I want you to familiarize yourself with the term key layer. This is what we're going to work on first. The key layer is what holds everything together. It has most of the detail. It sometimes can be referred as the outline layer, but for me, it's going to dictate where all of the information is so that I can start to sculpt it with color in the other layers. As you can see here, I'm using the combination of brush and ink as well as Posca pens to create a variety of mark and kind of speeds of mark as well. What's great about working on film is you can actually erase your marks quite easily and use it to your advantage. Sometimes I'll make something and start to use a Q-tip to clean it up a little bit or even kind of make it quite messy by leaving some of the ink on there. So now I'm painting on some thick marks and adding a little bit more detail, and I find that if I paint something and then I use a Q-tip to clean up part of the image, it creates a cool little, hand-drawn effect. A lot of my work I'm working on the computer, so it's really nice to play with this method to create some unique imagery. As you can see, I'm flipping my Mylar back and forth just to get a preview of how dark the marks are. If the marks appear too light, they might not actually shoot onto the screen. If that happens, don't worry about it. This is a very experimental process, and you are going to experience a little bit of a surprise, especially if you're doing this for the first time. Now, once you have your key image, you can now develop your color layers. When you create your color layers, keep in mind that each layer is one color. So you can make as many layers as you want. This tutorial is going to show 3 colors in 3 methods. Now, remember to let your ink dry before drawing on top of it with a new film. So I let it dry, and once it's ready, I return it back to the drawing and I tape a new piece of film over the top. Remember to work on a new piece of film. So now I'm adding my color layers. So I'm using a red just so you can see the difference between the key layer and the color layer. Once that's complete, I'll lay that out to dry. proceed with a third film, so another blank film, tape that on top. And then this one, I'm creating different mark making in the face. You can do whatever you want here. You can use cut paper, paint. I'm using the red marker just so you could see the difference. Once that's done, I'll let it dry. Remember, if you're not happy with some of the results, what's great about the film is you could take a Q-tip or a rag and rub it away with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm starting to remove some of the marks. I feel like it got a little bit too heavy. And the Q-tip creates some really interesting forms. So this is the third layer. I go back and I check it, and I actually start to remove a significant amount of marks. And then I just add a little bit more to it, kind of playing around with the process. Once I'm done here, I'll remove it and let it dry and proceed with the fourth and final layer, which I'll work in more of a cut paper method. I use the tracing paper provided and I trace the outline of my image, and what I'll do is I'll allow that outline to help me cut away the negative space so I can create just a really black filled background. It's an easy way to get nice opaque form. Once I have my shapes cut, I'll arrange them, and I'm not worrying if they're too big right now because I can trim them later. I'll then take my glue stick and glue it to my Duralar. Make sure the Duralar is all by itself. This is another layer. So I'll glue them down and put some pressure on them. And then I will flip the Duralar over and trim that excess paper off. I'll trim to the edge of the Duralar. And then I have all of my layers. I'll go in and polish any areas that are left. And then now I can arrange all my films together. So you can see how they all come together to create my image. Once you're done, you're going to want to protect your film, especially if you're transporting it back and forth to school. So take a big sheet of paper, fold it in half, and then tape both edges cleanly and carefully. Overlap the tape, and then you can trim it with your X-Acto knife. So I do it here on both edges, and then I fold that tape over on the other side. I'll do the same on both sides. And now I have a portfolio to protect my films. And there you go.